listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
All right, there's no human being on the planet I would rather be talking to other than Matt Spiegel. He is the guy at the top of my universal list right now. The be all end all. So good to see you.
Who else is on the list? Well, now you got
the entire human race. I said there's nobody I'd rather talk to than you. This is a fact.
Well, I mean, we got a good connection, dude. We understand covering the game. We love the game, and we love the relationships and the people, and getting deeper into this stuff as we go. So I appreciate you, man.
I was saying this in the press box in Arizona to a guy that we both know, Tom Scheer, and we were talking about you. And I said, man, I don't get a chance to listen to all the radio shows throughout the country, but I do listen to yours, Matt, whenever I get a chance. And I can honestly say this is me building you up, by the way. It was this is the same thing I did with Tori Lavello a few days ago. I'm here to build up. but I only do it when I mean it. And I listen to the show and I'm pretty hypercritical with radio shows these days, to be honest with you, because I think that I've been living in this podcast world where you're free of commercial breaks and you're able to just talk about whatever you want. But I really enjoy listening to your show. I really enjoy listening to it. You do such a good job. You guys do such a good job. It's because I feel like you are actually interested in what you're talking about. I think that's a huge part of this is that too many times we have these shows, whether it's a podcast or a show. I'm sorry, I'm going on this rant out of the gate. We're going to talk about Anthony Rizzo in a second, but too many times that, okay, we got to talk about this. And you can tell that the hosts, they don't really want to talk about it. They're doing their best to tie themselves in the knots. I listen to you guys and I'm like, I feel anyway, like you want to talk about whatever you're talking about. That's the best compliment I can give you.
That's awesome. And I appreciate it, man. It's funny because that's the job, is to make sure you stay interested and to make sure you stay passionate and curious. And I think about baseball a lot in that regard because they do it every day and they have to stay passionate and interested and curious. You know this, like Joe Madden and Carlos Pena and those guys used to talk about the beginner's mind, bringing the beginner's mind to every day or every at bat if you can. And certainly with the workload and the way that it is for hitters, it's like every day you get there, you gotta find it, and a manager's gotta help the players find it if they don't. So it's the same for us living day to day. We are curious and passionate and perky as a radio show. You still are about the game. That matters, and you can smell that when it's real and smell it when it's not. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, and this is going to lead right into what we're talking about, which is, there's a million things we can talk about, but and it's including, by the way, your Chicago Cubs or the Chicago Cubs. I don't know if they're your Chicago Cubs, the Chicago Cubs, which is kind of a team which is, it's kind of weird in the sense of when we talk about postseason and we talk about World Series and we talk about sort of power rankings and everything, I feel like the Cubs don't get mentioned. Like they get mentioned, but they don't get mentioned. They sort of are in this world of you have the Phillies and you have the Dodgers and you have the Padres, and then you have this weird American League, and you have and by the way, you have the Brewers, and then you have the Cubs, who are a good team. but it's sort of I'm and what I'm saying, Matt, is that I almost feel like out of nowhere we're gonna land with the Cubs in the World Series, and everyone's gonna be going, what? What's
Yeah,
going
see,
on?
it's funny. I saw that my friend Roy Wood Jr., the stand-up comic and a huge Cubs fan, is going on a tour, right? And he's in Chicago on November 2nd. And I saw that yesterday, and I texted him. I'm like, I didn't mean to name drop, but I texted him. I'm
Oh, I
like,
like it.
I'm taking like Game 7 of the World Series is the night before, and I see you have an off day on tour. I'm just saying. And he texted back, and he's like, "Holy f, holy whatever."
Yeah.
But like, because, and I remembered I did that to my dad when my dad was coming to town in 2016, and it was like September, and he was planning to come in late October, and I said, "Dad, I just looked at the schedule." Just saying, Game 3 of the World Series, which would be at the National League ballpark, is on the night of your visit. And my dad texted back, "OMG!" And then we went to the World Series. We went to Game 3 of the World Series. So I had the image yesterday of Roy Wood and me and my wife and others going to Game 7 of the World Series the night before. Yeah, it could happen. I think the reason they don't get mentioned is it's hard for national guys and outsiders to imagine who the ace is.
Yeah.
Like, you think about the Tigers, you're like, well, I can see Scooble carrying him. You think about the Red Sox, you're like, if they get in, man, watch out, Crochet. Like everybody's got that guy. For the Cubs, there you don't think of it, and then they didn't go out and get it at the deadline when I was screaming for them. But the truth is, they have the best starting pitcher ERA in the majors in the second half.
That's
Number
crazy.
one. It's crazy. It's crazy. And that's with everybody. That's with Javier Assad stepping in and Tyone being hurt twice and Colin Ray still part of the mix. But Shota's been good. Matthew Boyd has slowed down a bit in the second half after his great first half and all-star run. But Cade Horton has basically been Jake Arrieta. And that summer that Jake Arrieta, basically what we were saying was he's been Bob Gibson. So I guess by transitive property, Cade Horton's been that guy. Cade Horton might be their game one starter.
Yeah.
I think he's going to win National League Rookie of the Year. Kid's been unbelievable, and it's legit. He's got two different breaking balls. Now he's got two different fastballs. He's learned the changeup pretty much in the big leagues, and he throws strikes with every single pitch. He's been incredible. And shown no signs of wear and tear, but this is far and away the most innings. This is the most innings Matthew Boyd has thrown in the last, I think, 6 seasons,
Where are they at right now? Where are they at for innings?
About
you don't have to be the exact, but
no, I pulled it up. So Boyd's at 166.
okay.
And I think I don't think he's been above that in 6 years in his career. Horton's only at 110. But he was injured for part of last year, and he's a kid, so he's been babied.
Yeah.
Babied at Oklahoma when he wasn't hurt, and babied in the Cubs system because that's what they do. And now they're limiting him each outing. He's been under 80 pitches. I think he was at 91 pitches or 85 the last time out, and that's the most in 6 weeks. But like he's not feeling pain or symptoms, but nobody knows what the hell they're doing. So look, if those arms stand up, and the other thing is, Daniel Palencia just got hurt, and he wasn't great as a closer over the last month or two anyway. So their bullpen is still a work in progress, and that's a weird spot to be. Brad Keller's been a revelation. Andrew Kittredge got a save the other night, but I think it's because Keller was given the top of the Braves order in the 8th as opposed to going in the 9th, because Counsell will do that. But so they're still figuring some of that stuff out. The offense could score runs on anybody. Been slow sometimes in the second half, but they got enough bats if Tucker comes back healthy, and he should here very shortly. They got enough bats to make a run.
I asked about innings because I'm fascinated. We had Zach Gallen on earlier this week, and his 243 in the third innings, like is the ultimate reminder of, hey, you might feel good now, but if you want to make a run, you better be ready to add on a significant chunk of change to that. And you don't know how guys are going to handle that. And like, for instance, Sean Manaea last year with the Mets, he literally he fell off a cliff at 200 innings. He hit 200 innings. It was almost like at that moment, everything fell apart for him. And you just don't know how they're going to handle it. So, I'm always fascinated by that. And like you said, like, I think that at this point, you don't know. There's only so much you can do, and you just hope for the best. It is what it is.
Yeah,
So,
it is what it is. I'm jealous of the Mets who had 3 kids that they could bring
right.
up. I think most of the baseball world, I don't think even realized they had those guys to bring up. I mean, they could go 3 rookies in the playoff rotation.
Absolutely. And I talked to and it made me go over to Steven Matz because he did that, right? In
Yeah.
2015. He gets dropped in September and then he goes on a never know. To your point about Kate Horton, it's not about like what you're in April or May. It's like where you've landed in September. You've seen it. Like there's plenty of examples of guys getting hot at just the right time. And so anyway, that leads us to in a weird way, Anthony Rizzo, because Anthony Rizzo was part of an iconic Cubs team, and as I was thinking about that team, I was thinking about look at Kyle Schwarber, how he was dropped in that with a ACL injury and everything else. But we're not talking about Kyle Schwarber; he'll be talked about over and over and over again. It's Anthony Rizzo's time, and I want to go back to when you were first introduced to Anthony Rizzo. Maybe it was like a handshake. Maybe it was just, hey, I heard about Anthony Rizzo. I don't know. But when you were first introduced to Anthony Rizzo, obviously he came over from the Padres after he came over in the Adrian Gonzalez trade from the Red Sox.
Yeah.
What was what do you remember about your early memories about Anthony Rizzo?
I remember that he was clearly an emblem of what Theo and Jed dreamed of having for the Cubs. And this was at a time when Cub fans, and I was helping him understand it, and I was growing and understanding myself, were trying to figure out what's the secret sauce for Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer, and Jason McLeod for what they built in Boston and now what they were trying to build in Chicago. So like you referenced, he was a Red Sox prospect, went to San Diego, where Jed Hoyer traded for him from Boston during his short time out there. Then they get reunited in Chicago. One of the first things they do is give up a pretty good pitching prospect, and Andrew Kashner, to get Anthony Rizzo. And I'm like, all right, well, this guy clearly is a model for what they want to do and what they want to teach. And then before the Cubs were any good in 13 and 14, before they got good in 15, you saw Rizzo and you're like, oh, I get it. High on base percentage, lots of power, a great B hack where he shortened up with 2 strikes and made contact. Fearless defensively, the way that he attacked when guys would bunt, like more so than Keith Hernandez, or like reminded me of anybody like that. And Keith as a player, not as a broadcaster, but just like fearlessly attacking home plate when a guy was set up to bunt, being the captain of the infield. I was like, all right, I get it now. I mean, just like, what clearly a great player and a great leader on the field in terms of the way he did everything and prepped.
Was that right away? Did you notice that right away?
Instantly.
Really?
Every fundamental was money. And the way he did and how hard he played and how much he cared, his baseball character on the field. We saw it before they had anybody else. I remember it was him and I think it was Darwin Barney, who happened to be here, this like scrub middle infielder, but who busted his ass and made the most of his talent. It was like, all right, there's some examples of what these guys want to be and want to build. So you had Rizzo as your first model. And then in the years to come, when the prospects would come up, all right, who's this Javi Baez? And that was a Jim Hendry guy, but still he'd come up. All right, who's this Wilson Contreras? Who's this Chris Bryant? Who's this Kyle Schwarber? Who's Albert Almora? I guess they're going to add John Lester. They're going to go out and steal Joe Madden. As everything came together around him, Rizzo was there first. So that's the first thing to understand with the way that Cubs fans appreciate and love him. It wasn't just what he did in 16. It was the fact that everything got built around him as the first player. I always think of this. A dear friend of mine, Marty Leonard's a DJ on WXRT FM and a great Cubs fan. His dad passed away, I think, in 13. And I remember when I reached out to him and we talked over the next couple of years, and he said, man, my dad would have loved Rizzo. He would have loved him.
Ultimate compliment, right? I mean, ultimate compliment.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's the way it felt. Before the team was good, you're like, damn it, look, we got a guy. And looking back, it's like in this town, Rizzo and Jose Abreu were two great first basemen and model players for the Cubs and Sox. Before that, Derek Lee and Paul Konerko were two model dudes and first basemen for the Cubs and Sox. Before that, Frank Thomas and Mark Grace were the first basemen and kind of the models, or what it seemed to be. You know what I mean? So Rizzo, part of a long lineage of Cubdom, even if he didn't realize he was. So it's super important. And then obviously they win it all in 16, and it means the world.
So I'm looking at how old he was. And sometimes, we age it doesn't matter. Either you have it or you don't. You have that presence or you don't. And like that time that you're talking in 2014, he's still only 24 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously 50. I mean, so this is the run of all-stars, 14, 15, 16, 24, 25, 26. And like, but so if I think that's the biggest thing, right? You talking, that's what you want. If I can rattle off players, if players, but the if players are the players their foundations are made. And that's what I would imagine it was with the Cubs.
It was absolutely. And then, time goes on and you learn some of the challenges for people as players and people as people and all of that. But, those first few years, man, I mean, every one of these guys seemed to be an if player. It was like, I think this is going to be a massive dynasty. And looking back, and you write the book on it, it's a disappointment that they only made it to one World Series. It is. And it's got an 85 Bears tinge to it in terms of, man, they won it once, but could they have done more if X didn't happen or whatever? But yeah, like you definitely knew you knew. And then while they were good, he was so clearly the heart and soul. I mean, like all these different moments that come up. There was a moment against the Reds. The Cubs and the Reds had a hated rivalry for a while. And Rizzo one time on the road, I think it was on the road, but because there were multiple Cubs and Reds tussles, right? But one time the Reds dugout was talking smack to Anthony, and I think it's home now because it was over by first base. And he just had enough, and he threw down his glove and charged their dugout. So it's not like he charged a guy. He charged the whole freaking team. He didn't look back and see if there were any teammates having his back, and there were eventually. But he went out, and like 4 Reds jumped out of the dugout and all got in his face. But that is forever remembered as Rizzo tried to take on the entire Reds team alone.
Oh, man. It's... And obviously that something like that endears you to everybody. Endears you to the fan base, endears you to the team, endears you to everybody. Do you have any other moments where you say, okay, with him, that also helps define him? And again, there's a million of them. That's one of them. Maybe it's a big hit, maybe whatever it is. But
I got 2.
Okay, go ahead.
One is he jumped up on the tarp to catch a pop-up at Wrigley against the Brewers. I asked Craig Counsell about this the other day, and he couldn't see it from his spot in the Brewers dugout, but the whole dugout was talking about it, and they all went and looked at the video, and they're like, what the hell? Who's got the balls to do that? So he knew the park so well and was so confident and knew the fans would have his back. This is pre-netting. He jumped up on the tarp, caught a pop-up, and they eventually made a bobblehead of that moment because it's just so absurd that he had the comfort. And he doesn't look like a guy who would have the athleticism to do that, but he did.
No, but by the way, as a quick aside, the bobblehead technology, thank you. One of the best things to happen in baseball.
It's all moved forward, man.
Yeah.
And then the other one is there was a 14-pitch at bat against the Cardinals and a kid named Daniel Ponce de Leon that he ended with a home run at Wrigley. And it's Cardinals and it's super hypercharged. And as that at bat was building and building and building, people are like, hell yeah, we don't give up. We fight. And that was his MO anyway. With 2 strikes, he would shorten up and whatever. And the fact that he homered at the end of that at bat, Wrigley just exploded. And he's charging around the bases. He's pumping his fist around second and around third. And it was I don't even remember if it put him ahead. It didn't even matter. It was just the at-bat was so so hype and so great. So, and there are playoff moments too, but I just gave you random regular season ones. He was beloved every day that he played.
What was the reaction when he was dealt to the Yankees?
Oh man, it got ugly here. Like that team wasn't doing enough. It had become clear that they weren't going to keep most of those guys after that had been subtext for like the 2 or 3 years before. Are they going to give Bryant an extension? They're going to give Baez an extension. They're going to, Schwarber, they just let him go, non-tendered. And Rizzo wanted, it got sort of public, a little bit ugly. He wanted a certain number. They said that he wasn't going to do it. And then he eventually didn't get it. So they were right. And I think they were right about Baez and Bryant too, but they weren't right about Schwarber. But anyway, they were right about the other three. And so it was sad that day. I mean, it all happened, I think, on the same day. I remember Bryant crying in the dugout after it had happened. They dealt him to Frisco and, Rizzo to the Yankees. And we're all like, okay, Kevin Alcantara is on the team now. I think he's back in the minors, but Kevin Alcantara, one of the pieces from those trades. And he was one of the pieces from the Rizzo trade. It was an understanding that it was time because he wanted a certain amount of money. They weren't going to give it. And by then we realized, all right, lefty first baseman with power, with a bulky back, can probably find that another way on the spreadsheet, So there was an acceptance of it by then.
What was the part of his game which impressed you the most? It can be the most minute, intricate thing. I'm going to give you something real quick.
Please.
My last image of Anthony Rizzo was the last World Series game, and it was the Garrett Cole move. The Garrett Cole doesn't cover first. Brutal. But here's the thing. So in the press box, I just happened to have a direct view. It was like almost right in line with that play. And what that should be appreciated about that play, what for Mookie Betts, like if you did the spin rate of that ground ball, it'd be like 3,000 whatever. The Anthony Rizzo was a confident fielder at the most important times, and that everyone's going to remember Garrett Cole not covering first. I remember as soon as Mookie hit that, I'm like, holy crap, that is not an easy ball to field. So anyway, that is nobody else would take that away. Everyone's like, oh, well, why didn't you charge it? Why didn't you do it? All I know is that when I saw him play first, I felt like that's a first baseman right there. I love a first baseman with a ton of confidence. I love it. The way they act, the way they maneuver, the way they are able to use their feet in certain ways. Whatever it is, I love a good, confident first baseman, Matt. And he was the epitome of that. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. It's your show, Rob.
No, it's your show.
It's our conversation.
Yeah, it's our conversation.
To piggyback off that, I referenced it, the way that he would attack hitters who were trying to bunt.
Oh, yes.
Because they could always pivot to swinging away, but he didn't care. Like, he would literally end up within 3 to 5 feet of a left-handed hitter who was squaring to bunt because he would just charge. And I remember at bat after at bat, like the broadcast booth talking about it, and then us talking about it. Like, can you believe he's getting that close? Like, he might get one in the face. He just didn't care. He didn't care. So but really the thing is his ability to have power and then become a contact hitter. And we used to say, oh, look, he becomes Tony Gwynn with 2 strikes, or Rod Carew. Cody Bellinger can do that. There's very few guys these days who even think about doing it and can do it. And it was a misguided thought for a while, it seemed, from Theo and Jed. They were asking everybody to do that. Hey, can you swing for the fences, but then shorten up? Very few people could do it. And Anthony could. So it just made him a very complete player. I guess the other thing that I'll always think of is, especially when it was him and Javi, Anthony would catch a ball for the last out of the inning. And Javi always wanted to be the one who threw the ball to the crowd so he could have that moment with the crowd. And they all knew that Javi was a freaking ham. But Anthony would always make sure to get the ball to Javi so he could throw it into the crowd. And then that became a game in itself where Javi would be begging for it and Anthony wouldn't give it up. And he would just hold it up as they're running off the field. He would hold it up and Javi would be waiting for it, and just them messing around. So that sense of playfulness was always there.
That's awesome. Last thing, Matt, is that obviously this is his day. I'm anxious to hear you. Is there a good Chicago comp for Anthony Rizzo? And it can be any sport. Is there a good Chicago comp for him?
When people were arguing that he should never leave and should not have gotten traded, people would say he's this generation's Ernie Banks.
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that you can get that thrown around. But like, would win or lose, and it was mostly lose. Cub fans of that vintage, Ernie was that. That's what the Cubs.
Wow.
Are.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. Is this a big deal there? I mean, is this a big deal? You're in the middle of the pennant race, and also, by the way, every time a team needed a first baseman this year, where people would say, "Oh, Anthony Rizzo's available," like there wasn't any defined. Well, he's not until now.
Hey man, people are watching Carlos Santana strike out and saying Rizzo could do that, and then he might light a fire. And literally, I saw a response to the tweet of the Cubs saying Saturday will honor Anthony. Several of the responses are like, "Can he suit up for the stretch run?" So there's. To your point, it is not separated from his playing career very much at all. It's not. It doesn't feel that way. It's it's football season, man. Football takes over in this town in a way that I resent, frankly. But it is what it is. But like in terms of Cubdom, yeah, this is huge, man, and it's gonna be very big over there at Wrigley, and they're making him an ambassador. So this is like an official segue into that part of his life. And there's a dearth now that Ryan Sandberg has passed. Fergie Jenkins is old. Billy Williams is 82. It's like some of these guys. Who's that going to be? And we've always known that 2016 team was going to be meaningful forever, and next year's 10 years. And that'll be a celebration, and eventually some kind of statue and all of that. And Rizzo is the first, and I think the biggest guy. To end up being an ambassador of that. He and Lester, who's already in the fold in that way, but has multiple places that he calls home, as you know. But so it is a big deal for Cubdom to get Anthony on the heels of losing Sandberg.
Well, John Lester can make it a bigger day by just showing up and buying everyone beers once again. So
I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen.
I know, exactly. Let it be said, let it be done. Hey, man, thank you so much. You're the best.
Rob, you are too, buddy. Appreciate you.